Sometimes you just have to take a break from all the construction buzz that goes on here for your home and do just a little crafting. Join me today and let's craft together. With all of our busy schedules, it can be hard to justify taking the day off just to craft. But the rewards of showing your creative sides have great benefits. You know, I think that it always lets me tackle those bigger projects with more clarity and more focus. So if you were looking for an excuse to kick off for a day and do a little crafting, there you go. Now I want to share with you today some craft projects that you can do even if you've never crafted before. So come on, join me in my kitchen. You know, I just love pine cones. They're so much fun to use in floral arrangements or in a wreath, or just stack them up in a clear cylinder for display. Now, if you live in a rural area, you can get your pine cones free. Just go for a walk. You'll probably find them laying around in the ground, maybe in your own backyard. If you don't have that luxury, you can always pick them up at your craft store. Now, in the past, we've always associated pine cones with like the fall or the holiday season because of their rich brown color, but not anymore. Today I'm going to show you how you can bleach pine cones to use them year-round. They're still going to look great at Christmas, but in the summer, maybe you can mix them with a bowl of seashells for a different kind of look. Now here's what you're going to need for today's project. You're going to need, of course, bleach. You're going to need a plastic bucket along with some rubber gloves, a ceramic plate, newspaper, a brick, and of course your pine cones. Now I suggest with your pine cones that you get a nice variety of sizes. That way when you're doing your displays, you'll have lots of options. Okay, so let's start first of all with our plastic bucket. Now you can use a regular bucket or a dish like I have here. And you're going to want to use your plastic gloves because you're going to be working with bleach and most of us don't like the smell of that on our hands. So we're going to take our pine cones and we're just going to line the bottom of our bucket with them. And like I said, the more variety of sizes and shapes that you have, the better they're going to look. Get your different sizes that you want to work with. And it's nice to lay them down on their side more so than stand them up, especially if you're working with really big pine cones, because then it's going to take more bleach to, I don't like the way that one looks. Let's trade them out for a nicer one. Okay. All right, once you've got your pine cones in the bucket, then you're ready to start adding your bleach. Now, it's a good idea. I've got glasses on, but if you're not wearing glasses, safety glasses are a nice touch at this point as well to protect your eyes. Okay, now I'm just going to pour the bleach into the bucket. And like I said, this is the time when you want to make sure you've got those newspapers covering your work counter because it can jump out and splash on you. You notice I've got an apron on, the same kind of thing, because I don't want to turn my orange sweater or orange and white polka dot sweater. Okay, now you'll notice that they're floating to the top. Make sure you add enough of your bleach that you can totally submerge the pine cones in the bleach. Good thing is, bleach is inexpensive, so it's not an expensive crafting tool to use. Now, I'm going to put on my other glove because I'm going to get down into this area. I'm going to I'm using a square ceramic plate. If you're working with a round bucket, of course, you're going to want to use a round plate, something that will get all your pine cones down underneath the bleach so that they can't raise to the top. Then I'm going to weigh this plate down with just a brick. You could also just use like a stone out of your garden. There we go. Make sure that all of the pine cones are below the water like we have them there. Now, you're going to let them soak in the bleach solution for about 24 hours or less. Don't extend over 24 hours. Just keep an eye on it. You'll see as they start to change colors. If you don't like the smell of this in the house, go ahead and set it on outside. Just make sure that it is elevated and it's not where any of your pets can get to it and where it won't get rain on it in case you're in a damp environment as you put it outside. So we're just going to let these soak for a little while and then I'll show you what happens to them. When you get ready to start taking your pine cones out of the bleach, you'll notice that they've all closed up. Don't worry, as they begin to air dry, they'll open back up. Remove your pine cones and lay them out on paper towels to dry. Do this outdoors so that the smell can evaporate away from the pine cones. Now, if you'd like later to make your pine cones smell like pine or peppermint, just add a few drops of essence oil to them. Once they start to dry, you're going to notice that they also open up as well as turn white. That's what we're after, beautiful bleached pine cones that we can use in our holiday decorations as well as throughout the year. Now I'm going to get this all put away, and then I'm going to show you how you can use natural ingredients to create some wonderful aromas for your home. Don't you just love it when a house smells fabulous when you walk in the front door? Now I'm not talking about all those artificial room enhancers. I'm talking about really great natural scents. You know, you can create these yourself with things you probably already have in your kitchen. Let me show you how today. And I want to show you how to do a lot of different ones so they're not just holiday ones, but year-round. Okay, first of all, let's make one that is one of my favorites, and this one is with orange, cinnamon, and spices. Now, you're going to need to have some little fruit jars, and you probably already have these if you're like me and you do some canning around the house. We're going to need these. And then to make the orange cinnamon spice one, we're going to take slices of orange and put them right into our jar. Now, you don't have to worry about taking the seeds out of these. Doesn't matter at all. Just go ahead and put them in. And I'm working with 1 orange in my mixture. Okay. Once you get them all into the jar, then I'm going to add some sticks of cinnamon. 2 whole sticks of cinnamon, and just place them down into the middle or side of your jar like that. Now we're going to add some spices. Now in here I have a mixture of allspice, like you use for pies, and some cloves. So these are whole cloves. And I'm going to just sprinkle those in here just like that. Okay, once I have that in there, now I'm just going to top it off with some water. Notice that I'm putting these, I've got it set on a little plate here. That's in case if you overflow it or spill it out, it won't go all over the place. Now, take your lid and just put it on like this. Now you could go ahead and use this right away, or you could put it in your refrigerator and it'll last up to 2 weeks. So that's our first one. This was orange, cinnamon, and spices. Our next one, this one is great for the summertime. Or let's say, for instance, you're having an Italian dinner and you want to have this going on the stove when your friends come in. Let's do this one with lemons, rosemary, and vanilla. Okay, again with our jars. And drop our lemons in. Now, I have an herb garden, so it really makes it easy for me to get a lot of the herbs that I need to make these with. If you're not, you can pick them up at your grocery store or at your farmer's market. Now this is rosemary. Oh gosh, I love the way that smells. My granddaughter used to like to take this and rub it on her hands and go, see, my hands are all clean. It's a great spice. Now, I'm going to put this into my jar. And you can put as much as you want of this in here, like maybe 3 or 4 twigs of it. Got that added to it. Now let's add some vanilla to our mixture. Now, I like to use really good vanilla. If you have a local spice shop like I do, try visiting there. You're going to find some wonderful spices that you can add and get a lot more flavor than sometimes the store-bought ones. Okay, now I've got 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And don't worry about all of these mixtures. All the things that we're making today, you can find all the ingredients and the list you need in the instructions on our website at For Your Home. Okay, so now I have that added. I'm going to top it off with water again. This is a really great project for you to do with like your children or your grandchildren. It teaches them a lot about different herbs and spices and flavors. Okay, set that one to the side. Now, our next one. For those of you who love to have Mexican food and cook all different types of Latin dishes, this is a great one to have in the house. This is lime, thyme, mint, and vanilla. So I'm going to take my jar again. And I always like I said, I'm pairing these all the time with different things that I'm cooking in the house so that they smell great. A lime, drop it in. And you'll notice that these things are made with ingredients that are very affordable. They're not exotic spices that are expensive. Okay, once we have that in, now we're going to add just some sprigs of fresh thyme from your garden. Now, if you don't have the fresh spices and different herbs that I'm using today, you'll also find on the website there's a list for the ones that are dried, so you can go that route if that's what you need to do. But of course, nothing's as great as fresh. Now this is mint, and any of you who've ever grown mint, you're probably dying to find some uses for it because it just goes crazy in your garden and overflows everything. All right, so now we have our mint in here, we have our limes, we have our thyme. We're going to also add a little bit of vanilla. Again, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And the vanilla just sort of opens up the different fragrances that you're using, and that's why we were adding to these different citrus blends. Okay, more water to top it off. I think these look so pretty in the jar too. You know, they're just a nice display when you open your refrigerator and you see them sitting in there. It's great. These also make terrific hostess gifts. Make these up on a Saturday. You can see how fast they go together. Take them with you to your next party. Okay, the final one that we're going to make is one that is made with oranges and with ginger. Really has a great smell. And this is a good one for the holidays, I think. Thanksgiving is especially a nice time to work with this one. So we'll take our oranges and drop those in like that. And now we're going to use fresh ginger. And like I said, if you can't get a hold of the fresh ones, you can use powder. But this is equivalent to about a 4-inch finger on your ginger when you buy it at the store, with those little arms that stick out. And you just want to slice it. You don't even have to go to the effort to peel it. Just slice it in nice little thin slices and add that to it. This time our spice is going to be almond. So we're going to add to this about a 1/2 teaspoon of fresh almond. Oh, that smells so good. Now it's kind of funny how these smell so great, but then you taste them raw and they're not that fantastic. Remember that when you were a little kid? You thought they tasted so bad, but they smell so good? Okay, so we're going to fill this up with water again. Now, I like to set these in my refrigerator overnight. And then you want to get out whichever flavor you want to decorate with that time for whatever party. We're going to take these out and we're going to put them into a small saucepan and we're going to simmer them on the stove. As they start to heat up and as they start to steam, that beautiful aroma and smell is just going to go throughout your entire house. And as the water gets evaporated, just add a little bit more water to it. You're going to find that these are some of the nicest spices and smells that you've ever had to make your house smell wonderful when your guest or your family drops in. Now, I don't know if you've heard this before, but fresh flowers, they don't make a great hostess gift. Because here's your host, she's running around doing, those last minute details or greeting other guests. All of a sudden, she has to stop, find a vase, and take care of the flowers. A bottle of wine, it's a little more convenient, but it's not very creative. So today I want to share with you one of my favorite hostess gifts, and it's some that you can make up ahead of time, keep on hand, and then take to your party. All right, let's start off with one of my favorite. This is a lime and chili flavored butter. Now this is great if you use it on corn or any kind of Latin dishes. All you need is your mixer and a few simple ingredients, like to start with a stick of butter. Now you want to be sure that your butter, you put it out and let it be at room temperature when you start this. Okay, now we're going to just cream this and turn it on. There we go. Only takes a couple of seconds to do that. Now we're ready for our next ingredients. All right, I like to use fresh limes in fresh ingredients of any kind, but fresh limes, we're going to use 1/2 of a fresh lime in this. Now, you can squeeze it, you could use, one of those juicers that you have, and I kind of squeeze it to the side so that I can see if there's any seeds that fall in the way. But here's my big secret. See this? Tongs, we all have them. If you put your lime or your lemons in there and then squeeze, look at all that juice that comes out. Our next ingredient is chili powder. And I'm going to be adding about a teaspoon of chili powder to my mix. Just go ahead and dump that right in. Once you've got all 3 of those ingredients mixed together, you're ready to mix them up. going to stop about halfway through. Take your spatula and just push it down from the sides. So you want to make sure that it all mixes together well, so just push that down from the sides like that. Back into the center and start your mixer again. There we go. Okay, now then, I want to scrape all of this off. Now this is, kind of a fun time to have more than just yourself around the house because you want to taste it at this point. That's why I have these little crackers out here. And this is one of my favorite parts about doing this project is you have to sample it to make sure it's tasting perfect. I think that's really perfect. Okay, if you want a little more kick, add a little bit more chili powder to it. Once you've got it all mixed together like this and you're happy with the way it tastes, I'm going to go ahead and take this guy out of my way so that I can get in here. You're going to take these little jars. Now these are handy little jars that I get for my homemade pesto. I've shown you before how to make that. And then we're just going to go ahead and put it into our jars. Now these little jars are the perfect size for 1 stick of butter, and that's what we're working with today. You could get more decorative jars if you want, but you want to try and keep your costs down because butter is not inexpensive. And we are working with real butter, not margarine, and we're working with unsalted butter. Okay, once you have that in there, just kind of push it down, get the air bubbles out of it. And you can take your dishcloth or a paper towel and just clean up around the edges like that. Take your lid, pop it on, put it in the refrigerator, and when you're ready to either have some great corn on the cob with a little bit of kick to it, you can use it at your house or take it to a friend who's having maybe a Cinco de Mayo party. Okay, this is one of my favorites. This is walnut and maple flavored butter. We're here in North Carolina and we are the sweet potato capital of the country, and there's nothing that tastes better than this flavored butter on a sweet potato. Or you could put it on bread, or you could put it on pancakes, anything that you want to give that really sweet mapley taste to. All right, we want to start again like we always do with 1 stick of unsalted room softened butter. Put it in my mixer and turn it on. Okay, creamed it up. Now remember, if you let it be room temperature before you start to work with it, it'll go together great. If it's cold, this is going to be a struggle for you. Okay, walnuts. Now I started with about a 1/4 cup or more of walnuts. I put it into my little mini processor here and chopped it up nice and fine. See that? Now I need about 1/8 of a cup of the walnuts. I'm going to add that to my mix. And now I'm going to add the maple syrup. Now here's a secret. I use sugar-free maple syrup on my pancakes, but for this, go all the way. Use real maple syrup. The more expensive and the better the brand is, the better your butter will be. All right, we're going to put in 2 heaping teaspoons. Let's make it 3. I like real mapley taste. We're going to add that to our mixture. All right, now back to spinning it around. Don't forget that every time you mix this together, you're going to have to stop and just scrape it down from the sides of the bowl so you can get it all back down into the center so it distributes all your flavors all the way through the butter. Okay? Now just a little bit more mixing. There we go. Remember, these are going to get more intense with flavor the longer they set in the refrigerator. So, go ahead, and if you think that's just a little light, add some more. If you think it's just about right, don't add any more, okay? Again, take your little jar and fill it up. And put your cap on and put it in the refrigerator. Now these are going to keep for about 2 weeks in the refrigerator. So the fact that you only have to make it with 1 stick of butter is great because otherwise, you may not get around to eating it in time before it goes bad. Okay, our next one is gingerbread butter. And I mean, this one of all the ones I've made today just says Christmas. You know when you make those great gingerbread houses and gingerbread cookies? Well, now we're going to make butter. So it's very simple. We're going to use 2 tablespoons of molasses, and I've already got my butter in here creamed. So I'm going to add this to it. And remember, unsalted butter. All right, molasses is a little slow, so you have to wait for it to drip out. All right, now for our spices, we're going to add equal amounts of 3 different spices. 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, that's gingerbread, and 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. So we're going to add those right into our mix here. Okay, and turn our mixer on. Now it's easy to tell when this is well mixed because the color changes. It goes from being that light butter like we had with our other ones to that really rich gingerbready brown color. Okay, now this would be fabulous for you to put onto pancakes, onto waffles for Christmas morning, or in my case, eat it right out of the mixer with a spoon. Don't you just love olive oils? It's so much healthier than using butter when you're cooking, and it also makes a great party favor for your guests. Let me share one of my favorites with you. It is very easy to make, and it has most ingredients that you already have around their house. Now, you can buy little bottles like this at your craft store, or you can buy them online. Depends on how many of these you want to make up. Or if you're into recycling and you have little small bottles left over from balsamic vinegar or whatever, just use those to make this. Okay, take a trip out to your herb garden or to your local market if you don't have one, and buy yourself some nice herbs. I'm working with rosemary and thyme primarily today for these. Now, in this little jar, we're just going to fill it up with olive oil. Now, one of the things that I want you to remember is when you're making these, they're only going to taste as good as the quality of oil that you're using. So be sure that you don't skimp and use very inexpensive oils, because then, of course, your flavor's not going to taste that well. All right, I'm going to cut off one of these pieces of rosemary, and I'm going to stuff it down into this bottle, just like that. And you can use as much of it as you want. The more, of course, you use, the stronger the flavor is going to be. If you don't care for thyme, if you would rather use a different kind of herb, you know, that's your gift. You can do whatever you want with it. But both of these seem to work really well for most types of uses for olive oil, where in my case, I'm making these for bread dipping. You know, when you get that great homemade bread and you want to dip it in some olive oil. Okay, now I like to use a little funnel because it keeps it from getting such a mess all over my clean jar. And I also like to set it into a plate or a bowl like this in case it does run over. I don't have to clean up as much stuff. Okay, now I'm just going to pour it in here and fill up the bottle. You know, I like to make up several of these ahead of the time. You know, if you're doing a party, you can make them up, gosh, 2 or 3 weeks or even a month before your party. Okay, once you have that full, all you got to do is put the cap on it. Told you it was going to be an easy thing to make. Now we're going to go one step further with this, and we're going to add some spices, so when your guests get home and they want to have that dipping sauce like we're talking about, they can add spices to it. Now, I like to make my own dipping spices, and you can as well, or you can buy them at the store. This one has white sea salt in it, black pepper, I have garlic powder in it, coriander, and just, you know, it's something we've been mixing together for a long time, and a little bit of dried rosemary. But like I said, you can make your own or buy it. These little cellophane bags are available at your craft store, and they're only just a couple of pennies a piece. And I found the biggest job was getting them open. So there you go. Now, I'm going to put in here, about a tablespoon or 2 of the spices. Just like this. All right. Once you have those in there, then you're just going to seal it up. Use a regular hole punch. I have a really tiny one that I like to use, and just punch a little hole in the corner of your little bag. And then you can use any type of raffia or ribbon, depending on the season or the party that you're giving, and just tie it, the little bag of spice, along with a little note talking about the olive oil and about the recipe that you've used and some ideas maybe that they can use at home either to cook with it or for the dipping sauce. Tie it onto your little bottle. These make wonderful little favors for almost any party that you might be giving, and they only cost you a few dollars to make up. So much nicer than those store-bought favors. Do you want to know more about the projects today or our guests? Visit us on the web. You're going to find great behind-the-scenes shots, streaming video, project ideas. We even have an e-newsletter with tips and ideas. It's foryourhome.com. Well, I hope you had fun crafting with me here in the kitchen today. You know, being creative is one of the best ways to show your friends, your family, and your guests just how special they are to you. And why not treat yourself this week and take a little time for crafting? Hope to see you next time right here on For Your Home. You want to get out whichever flavor you want to decorate with that time for whatever party. We're going to take these out and we're going to put them into a small saucepan. You can squeeze it, you could use one of those juicers that you have. And I kind of squeeze it, tie it onto your little bottle. These make wonderful little favors for almost any party that you might be giving.